My neighbor's surprising assistance altered everything. You won't imagine what occurred. I always thought my life was flawless. 8 years of marriage, a lovely home nestled in a serene neighborhood, and a partner I believed I could rely on entirely. We may not have been the most fervent couple, but we possessed a sense of stability that I truly cherished. My partner toiled through long hours, frequently returning home late, weary from a relentless series of meetings. From the comfort of my home, I crafted my own schedule, indulging in hobbies that brought me joy, while also sharing moments of conversation with my neighbors from time to time. A particular neighbor stood out, a warm and approachable individual who resided next door. Though we weren't particularly close, there was always a smile exchanged when our paths crossed, and occasionally, we would pause for a bit of small talk. I never gave them much thought beyond that. My attention was directed towards my marriage, on preserving the life we had created together. However, there had been a sense of unease in the air recently. My partner had grown increasingly distant, often absorbed in their phone, laughing at messages that remained a mystery to me. They asserted that their tasks had intensified, yet the late nights became increasingly common, and the justifications grew weaker. Initially, I reassured myself that it was insignificant. Individuals become occupied. Pressure transforms individuals. Yet, the heaviness in my gut persisted. I began to observe more closely. The way they turned their phone aside as I passed, the way their meetings always appeared to drag on late into Fridays, the way they ceased to spark conversations like they once did. I attempted to set it aside, convincing myself that I was merely overanalyzing. However, one evening, an event occurred that I simply couldn't overlook. I was taking out the trash when I caught sight of my neighbors lingering by their porch, their expressions filled with uncertainty. They caught my eye and offered a small nod, yet something in their expression compelled me to hesitate. Before I could utter a word, they interjected. "Hey, I hesitated to bring this up, but I spotted your spouse the other night, at that new restaurant on 5th. I furrowed my brow, perplexed. It was likely a work dinner, I remarked, trying to stifle a laugh. They paused, uncertainty lingering in the air. Perhaps, yet they were not solitary. Something in my chest constricted. The words of my neighbors carried no accusation, only a sense of caution. They held back, refrained from making assumptions, yet the underlying message was unmistakable. I attempted to appear nonchalant, dismissing it with a feeble smile, yet my thoughts were already in a whirlwind. That night, as my partner returned home late yet again, presenting the same weary excuse, I observed them with heightened scrutiny. Their avoidance of my gaze, the way they slipped into the shower without even uttering a good night, it all clicked into place now. I wished to be mistaken. I had to be mistaken. Yet, beneath the surface, I was aware all along. Uncertainty morphed into an all-consuming fixation. I began to observe every detail, the way my partner's phone seemed permanently glued to their hand, the newfound excitement for cologne that had never caught their interest before, and the mysterious charges appearing on our credit card statements. My thoughts surged with potential narratives, yet I sought validation. I wasn't prepared to make any accusations without having the facts straight. One night, as they stood under the warm cascade of water, I noticed their phone vibrating on the nightstand. My heart raced as I extended my hand toward it. A name I didn't recognize flashed across the screen, followed by a message that shattered everything. "Miss you already, can't wait for Friday." My hands quivered as I navigated through the screen. The thread brimmed with late-night chats, shared secrets and snapshots that spoke volumes. The person I had placed my trust in for 8 long years was leading a double life, sharing moments of closeness with another while returning to me as if everything was perfectly normal. I felt an overwhelming urge to scream, to cry, to hurl the phone across the room, yet all I could manage was to remain seated, utterly numb. As they emerged from the shower, a sudden stillness enveloped them, their gaze locked onto the phone cradled in my hands. For a brief moment, silence enveloped the space, punctuated only by the rhythmic sound of water dripping onto the cold tile. Then, their expression transformed from shock to something more frigid. "What are you doing with my phone?" I chuckled, yet the sound felt empty. Is that really what concerns you? Isn't it the case that you're being unfaithful? They made no attempt to refute it. Instead, they let out a sigh, running a hand through their hair as if this were merely a trivial annoyance. It's not what you imagine. Then, clarify it for me, I retorted. They paused for a moment, then gave a casual shrug. I am uncertain. It simply unfolded. Their tone was devoid of inflection, lacking any hint of emotion, as if they were merely commenting on the weather. I never intended to cause you pain. Something within me broke. You didn't intend to. For months, you've been deceiving me, hiding in the shadows, returning home as if nothing is amiss, making me question my own sanity for even having doubts. My voice trembled, yet I pushed myself to continue. Who could it be? They let out another sigh, as if I were draining their energy. Just a colleague from the office. Simply an individual. As if all the moments we shared held no significance at all. As if I were invisible. I could no longer bear to gaze upon them. I snatched my keys and stepped outside, my heart pounding, thoughts swirling in my head. I found myself wandering, completely unaware of my destination. I simply had to escape. Without a second thought, I found myself standing at my neighbor's doorstep. The door creaked open, and the moment they laid eyes on me, no questions were uttered. They simply moved aside, granting me entry. I was caught off guard by my emotions. As soon as I took a seat, it all came rushing out. The treachery, the deceit, the way my partner gazed at me as if I were the source of all issues. My neighbor absorbed my words in silence, their face a mask of inscrutability. When I finally ceased my words, they refrained from offering hollow sympathy. They simply inquired, "What is it that you wish to pursue next?" I found myself without a response. A part of me longed to unleash my frustration at my spouse, to seek an explanation that would unravel the chaos and bring clarity to it all. Another part of me yearned to believe that none of this was real, to awaken and discover it was all merely a figment of my imagination. Yet, beneath the surface, I understood that this was beyond repair. Once trust was shattered, it was a fragile thing that could never be fully restored. Days slipped away in a haze. I kept my distance from my spouse, finding every opportunity to be away from home. My neighbor transformed into a steady presence, providing gentle encouragement without any pressure. They delivered coffee to me each morning, extending invitations for walks whenever they noticed me losing my way. I discovered that I was revealing parts of myself to them in ways I had never done with anyone before. One evening, after yet another long, exhausting day of feigning that all was well, they caught me off guard with a dinner surprise. "You need to eat," they said simply, placing the plate before me. It was a seemingly minor act, yet it struck me with a weight that felt disproportionate. My partner once engaged in such gestures, but that was before they lost interest. I gazed up at my neighbor, truly observing them. For the first time, I noticed how they always seemed to know just what to say, how their presence made the weight in my chest feel a little lighter. I sensed a change within me, an unfamiliar feeling that I wasn't quite prepared to identify. Guilt seeped in almost instantly. Wasn't it too soon to feel anything? My marriage had just shattered. I was meant to be in mourning, yet I found myself captivated by the gentle way my neighbor's gaze softened as it met mine. Yet, the reality was that I had been feeling isolated for quite a while, longer than I was willing to acknowledge. One night, as we sat outside in a comfortable silence, they turned to me and said, "You deserve better than this." Their voice carried a soft yet unwavering confidence. Words eluded me. No one had ever expressed that to me before. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to entertain the notion that perhaps they were correct. Understanding washed over me in surges. On certain days, I sensed a surge of strength, prepared to move forward and let go of what once was. On some days, uncertainty slinked in, murmuring that perhaps I was exaggerating, that maybe I could still piece together what remained. Yet, each time my gaze fell upon my partner, what met my eyes was nothing but treachery. This was beyond repair. I initiated the process for separation. The exchange was succinct, frosty, and purely transactional. My partner hardly responded, as if they had already disengaged long before I uncovered the reality. Perhaps they had. I anticipated a clash, perhaps a heartfelt apology, yet all I received was a lukewarm response. I never imagined it would conclude in this manner. That was the moment. 8 years diminished to a mere shrug. Progressing was a challenge. The house resonated with a profound emptiness that caught me off guard. I convinced myself that solitude was essential, that I had to mend my wounds before allowing anyone else to enter my life. Yet the reality was, someone had already taken that step. My neighbor stood by me through every moment, never seeking anything in return. They remained, not pushing or attempting to impose anything, simply existing in the moment. And somewhere along the way, that subtle presence transformed into something greater. One evening, as we sat on their porch, watching the sun dip below the rooftops, I turned to them and finally spoke the words I had been holding inside. For an extended period, I found myself devoid of happiness. It was the first time I had confessed it, even to my own heart. They refrained from saying, "I told you so." They simply nodded. "I understand." The quiet lingered in the air, yet it held a certain ease that felt just right. It was as if clarity had dawned, as though a silent truth had at last found its place. In that moment, almost instinctively, I extended my hand towards theirs. They remained close. I was still unaware of what this truly was. Perhaps it was merely a sense of solace, or perhaps it marked the beginning of an exciting new chapter. Yet, for the first time in ages, I felt a sense of courage to discover the truth.